everybody. Welcome. I usually jump on a few minutes early. I'm a little late today. Let me pop in and get the chat going so everyone could chat away. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday Eve, but I love to say. So I'm popping in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. I'm so excited you're here. Okay, there we go. I hope everybody's doing good today. Hope you're having a good week. Hi from Texas. Hello, Texas. Texas. I have a bone to pick with the weather just in general. I head to Sedona, Arizona in 2 days, which I know is in Texas, but it's going to be very warm in Sedona and then even crazier warm. Oh, from Arizona. Hello, Matthew. That's where I'm headed. So and another Fort Worth, Texas. Hi, everybody. Oh, I have somebody in the queue. And Missouri. Hello, hello. So in Nebraska. I've been talking about this for a few weeks and then I will let everybody know at the end too, but I head on vacation tomorrow, or well, tomorrow evening, technically Saturday officially. Hello, Atlanta. Um, and I'm very excited because it's our first family vacation in a minute. Oh, I'm very excited for Sedona. I'm going to Sedona first for 3 nights, which is a place I've dreamed of forever to go to. I'm a big stars person and I like all the fun stuff that goes along with Sedona. I'm spending 3 nights there and then we're flying from there and headed to Anaheim and we're taking my daughters to Disneyland and then my husband and I and friends of ours are running in Disneyland. It's having a Halloween race, so we're running the 10K there. So it's quite a busy trip, but we're hopping around a bit, and I'm incredibly excited. Um, so I've heard, Matthew, that Sedona is beautiful and the great art scene. We're on the west side, and I'm told that's great for star seeing. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to give everybody a minute because I hopped on a minute late and I'll get started at about 7:05. But if you are new here, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited everybody's here. This has become my favorite night of the week. Amanda, you leave on the 6th for Cocoa Beach and then an MSC cruise to the Bahamas. Lovely. That's so exciting. Bahamas water is like so magical. This is becoming my favorite night of the week. I love getting the opportunity to speak to all of you and speak about personal and professional development. If you don't know me, if this is your first time here, my name is Laura De Vega. I am the Director of Agency Development with World Via Travel Group. I have been in the industry, I'm on the year 13. I've started as a travel agent myself, owned my own agency for a bit, headed into the wholesaler side of things, and worked for a very large wholesaler on their business development team, ran that business development team for a minute. And then I ended up where I am today. Something I'm incredibly passionate about is making sure that you develop yourself and you're developing your business at all times. When I worked for the wholesaler side of this business, I spoke to so many of you every single day. And when I was speaking to all of you, I ran into so many agents that just felt lost, that felt like they didn't have a direction, didn't even know really where to start. And I am a nerd in the sense that I spend my time reading development books. I really enjoy it. I love you'll hear me say a lot if you've been here before, you've heard a bunch, so I'm sorry, but I'm very big on like bigger, better, best, like always making yourself better. So everything around you is better, and just getting bigger and better and best for everybody. So, with that said, tonight's topic, that's you brand new to the industry. I love that. So what I will say is the whole point of this is for you to take what you can from it to develop yourself. It is targeted to experienced agency owners, but I gear it towards everybody in the conversation. So there'll never be a time where you feel like, oh, it's not relative to you. And everything we've talked about so far has connected, and you'll notice it connects again tonight. And then going forward, so we will have a slight break, okay? So after this week, there's a couple weeks because I am on vacation next week, and then my company has our largest event of the year called World, which is the week after, which is also in California. So I'll be out there for a little bit longer. And I just won't be able to feasibly run that from there. And I don't know about the week after that. I'm going to try. I'll be in Boston. Then I have a bit of traveling happening. So, but then I'm going to come back stronger than ever. And all those classes after will also connect with this one. It's very important to me that it has a connecting bridge. So this all makes sense. So you're not sitting here with me all this time and being like, what's the point? I don't understand. You'll notice there was a lot of connection from each one. So we started with goals. We talked about how to set goals, the importance of goals, with the importance of writing down goals. Then we got into the habits and how you can change your habits to get to those goals. We talked about navigating change and how navigating change, because change comes up when you start to adjust your goals, when you realize what makes more sense and you start making them SMART goals. And we'll talk about SMART goals again tonight. So what that means for that. And then also we talked about growth mindset, because that is the mindset you need to have to grow yourself and your business to make all these changes. And then we've also gotten into, oh my goodness, I already forgot what we talked about last week. We've talked about a bunch of things and they all keep connecting in. And we've done, I think this is week 6 or 7, but it's all interconnecting. So this week, it's 7:06 now, so I want to be mindful of everybody's time. We are going to get into not the flashiest of topics per se, but I think probably the most interesting topic and the most crucial topic for advisors, in my opinion. And why I say that is because I wanted to find the statistic before I started this, because I hate saying things and that not having the backing behind it. But during the pandemic, the time we do not speak of, or the time that must not be named, as I sometimes will call it, the blip, whatever you want to call it, right? So during that time period, there was a statistic pool that the amount of travel agency owners had never evaluated their own finances. So they didn't know how to navigate themselves out of the financial struggles of the COVID pandemic. That was terrifying. It was terrifying to think that there were so many people out there that were doing just beautifully. They were killing it. They're crushing their goals. They're getting their habits and they're doing their things. But something crazy happened. They didn't have any backing to where their money was, where we're sitting, what were you doing with anything to get themselves out of it. Now, many of you did. And listen, you are the survivors, and we're happy to have you here. If you're just coming back after COVID, welcome back. Let's get in a conversation about how you can fix yourself so that if this ever happens again, you're in a better financial place. You have a better understanding of your finances. And again, I'm not saying all of you here don't have an understanding, but what this is great for is to help you understand what you should be focusing on, how you can use that to kind of grow your long-term goals. Again, goals are coming back tonight a bit, and so that you can grow your business. Okay, so I'm calling it financial event navigation, and it's like I said, it was meant to understand long-term goals and statements. We're going to get granular into a few little things. What I want to say before I officially get started and here while I'm talking. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to pop a few things in here really quickly. First things first, if you're not a part of it, we do have a Facebook group. I will post if you miss anything or you can't stay on for whatever reason. I don't know, we're all busy. We all have things going on, right? So I want to make sure that you have the Facebook group. All past episodes are posted in there. All links to new sessions are posted in there as well. And then anything, if I recommend books, I'll pop those in there. There's a lot of things that will pop in there. And I apologize, it's taken me a minute to get there at the moment, but I'm going to pop that in. Will this webinar be recorded? Yes, it absolutely will. So as I said, it will, once I will record it and I will pop it in here. So if you don't have the time to stay on this whole time, I 100% understand. It might be dinner time for some of you. It might, I don't know what time zone you're in. There's a lot of different options. Okay, I just popped the Facebook group into the chat, and I'll pop it up again at the end. But everything is posted in the Facebook group, so you can always rewatch there. All the old episodes are in there too, so you can catch up to kind of oh my goodness, to kind of how we got here today and how we're going to keep going forward. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop my presentation on the screen. Those of you that have been here before, I like to share the screen because I like to see your faces, and I also think it's important that you see mine as we're going through here. Oh my goodness, I'll get there eventually. Let's see here. So we're gonna share. Nope, 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 nope. Share, and we are gonna share screen here. We're gonna share with that one. Okay, beautiful. Let me know if you can see what we're looking at here. I hope you can see the screen. If I missed anything, let me know. I don't think I missed any comments. You can't see it yet, Amanda? Yes, beautiful. Okay, so this is just, it's okay. That's all good, girl. So this is just my fancy title screen, and it's not so fancy this week. I try to change up the presentation each week, and I noticed there was a lot of businessy photos in here, and I couldn't figure out how to change them. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not the best when it comes to PowerPoints. I'm trying to get better, but the content is good, I swear. So, all right, let's go. Ooh. All right. I don't know what is going on here. We're gonna get rid of that. Okay. So let's talk about the importance of financial literacy, right? So we just kind of talked about that, how that affects the agency owner, what it does for you and for your planning for your business. There's so many steps along the way that if you don't have a full grasp of the full scope of your business, how money comes in, how money's going out, it's really going to affect the decisions you can make for your business, what you can add into your business to make your business better because you don't know what's coming in and out, and how you can grow, right? So first things first, why are the numbers important? Effective budgeting, right? So it helps you allocate your resources efficiently. It ensures you're going to cover operational costs while investing in growth opportunities. Okay, what do I really mean by that? So one, like I said, when you have a grasp of what you're bringing in and bringing out, you can see exactly how much you have to spend on extras, exactly how much you could spend on, say, if you want to start chartering group cruises, if you want to start putting out initial costs on group space, you know how much funds you have to do those things if you have a good idea of where your business is at. If you're humoring paying for an assistant or hiring an employee, you're gonna have a better idea of if you have the funds to do so, if you have understanding of your current budget, right? And cash flow management is important to get there, right? So it gives you all the information you need on whether the income is seasonal, if it's going to fluctuate to external factors. So when you sit down and take a minute to go, okay, where does money come from? What kind of suppliers did it come from? When did it come in? You have the idea of how much you usually get in certain months. You know, for a long time, busy season was, January through April, really February through April for a few years there. Now it's kind of all over the place. But is that true for you? You might sell things that actually isn't consistent for. So you shouldn't be building your budgeting and building your business around somebody else's busy season. Because that's what you're doing. You're assuming wave season is your busy season, which it is for a lot of people. But if you only sell FIT Europe, trips and things like that, you have a very different busy season. You might be earlier, you might be different. It really depends on what you're selling. So make sure you're evaluating your own business. You know when that money's coming in and when it's going out. It's incredibly important. Next, profit margins. That's what we talked about last week. Profit drivers, right? We talked about evaluating your business and seeing where this money's coming in and seeing where you can make the most money. And by doing that, you need to take a step back and self-evaluate your business and see exactly where you're making more money. Okay. And that could be with a certain kind of product, or that can be with a certain kind of supplier, right? It could be the same product essentially between supplier to supplier, but you're making a substantial amount of more money, whether it be because you get a better commission with your host, it might be because you get it might be a perk offer at that point in time, whatever it may be, but making sure you're taking that moment to see who you're working with and making sure it makes sense so you're making the most money you could be making to benefit your business is incredibly important. So it helps you understand your profit drivers because you can actually your profit margins, because it helps you calculate, and you can look at your healthy profit margins and identify your profit drivers. So you'll see exactly where your profit drivers are because it'll all be broken out for you. Okay. Financial record keeping. This is important because one, taxes. Nobody likes to talk about taxes. Nobody likes to do tax. I like to do taxes. I'm still have taxes haunting me from when I have my business. I'm just saying you need to have a good understanding for your taxes because especially in a business like this where we are commission based, we are not usually getting an hourly paycheck in. It's important that one, you're making sure you're taking the right amount, oh my goodness, the right amount of money out to pay your taxes. to pay for the service or the fees that are due to have your taxes put together for you, but also just being prepared because you never know what might change from year to year, or if you have to be prepared for these things. So having the record in there of exactly what your sales were to get those percentages out so you know exactly what's going to be coming in and out of your business is incredibly important. Also, for depending on how much you sell and what you do, whether you have tax write-offs and things like that, keeping record of anything that you're putting back into the business that can be written off for you is huge because that can cut off a ton of costs for you. Taxes can get pricey. Your first couple years of business, depending on where you live, I think I don't know if that's actually depending on where you live situation, but I know I don't want to speak on taxes. I am not an accountant, but I know there's like an allowance for so many years, right? Where you don't pay depending on how much you bring in. That will stop and you're going to have to pay in, and you want to make sure that you're accounting for everything to make sure you're paying as little as possible. Also helps protect the business in case of audits or disputes. So if you're not recording your information, if it ever came back to you, and it happens more than we'd like to admit, you want to have that record so you have your paperwork, right? You have your paper trail to know, oh, no, I know I did this. I know this is why this is here. I know this is why this happened. I know I paid out this much. I know I saved this much, whatever it may be. You want to have the accountability for that. That's incredibly important. Now, and also for business expansion, okay? If you don't have a grasp of what your numbers are, you aren't going to know if you can afford that new technology. If you can afford that new CRM system, if you can afford an upgraded AI to start doing your marketing for you, if you can afford an accounting service for that matter, right? You're not going to know how you can expand, but really, when I talk about expansion, you're not going to know if you can afford that storefront or that space. They have so many open group working spaces now that you can rent into. You're not going to know if you have the money for that to get your face out there if you're not taking a minute to look at your expenses. You're not going to be able to know if you can have an employee or bring on somebody, oh my goodness, supplement like training for them or training for yourself if you don't have the evaluation of your business. So important things. And again, it also helps with just to assess your ROI, which is your return on investment. So when I just mentioned like training or development, say you want to do a master course of some sort or certification, knowing you're going to get the ROI on that, and then it's going to help expand your business. ROI is return on investment. So knowing whatever you put into there, you're going to get back. And you'll see that if you're writing it all down and reporting it in for yourself. And emergency planning. Kind of already talked about this and touched on it, but having a financial pocket of money, having a space for when things go haywire, because we know they will. It doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be another pandemic. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, it could be something as simple as there's a hurricane and you have multiple people stuck and you need to help, whatever it may be. And that's not a great example because usually they should have insurance or things like that, but you might need to help somebody out in a spot. You never know. It could be an error on your part. Now, I will always recommend to no end having errors and emissions insurance. I recommend if you're part of an organization or a consortium or a host, join one that offers you a supplemental policy as well, but making sure you have your own. Errors happen. They happen to the most experienced of agent. No one is exempt from making errors. We're all human. Having that insurance is one peace of mind for you. It's a peace of mind for your clients in a sense as well. And it's just important for a business owner to have that type of, if you want to really establish your business, you should have it. But on top of that, there's going to be situations where it may not be covered by that. Something's going to come up where there's going to be an error where it doesn't get covered by your admissions. It's not going to be covered by your business insurance, whatever it may be. And you're going to have to shell out money out of pocket. Where is that money going to come from? If you haven't built a cushion for yourself, if you haven't found a space for that, if you haven't evaluated what you currently bring in and bring out to know that you can create that cushion, you're not going to be able to do it for yourself and you're going to be stuck every single time. And nothing is more diminishing than when you are just crushing it. You're getting all these sales, and one big error comes in, and it was a complete accident. And you have to pay out $5,000, $10,000. Also, and this is becoming more relevant lately, commission recalls. Because suppliers are getting brave again and starting to pay before departure. And everyone gets very excited about that because you get your money sooner. You have to be prepared. If that client doesn't travel, there is a chance you're going to have to get that money back. So do not spend that money before you have it. Creating a space to keep that money is so, so important. Okay. I've really preached at you there for a minute. But so first question, do you currently have a budget? Do you have, and this does not, I am not here to sell you materials. I'm not here. I will recommend some at the end. It doesn't have to be, but do you have a budget? Whether it is an Excel sheet that you have on your computer, whether it is QuickBooks, whether it is you actually have a bookkeeping service, whatever it may be, you should have a budget. Okay. But I do believe it can be as simple as an Excel sheet to start. And I'm going to talk through what I think you should have on that budget to give yourself the best understanding of your business if you haven't taken this minute to do it yet. Okay. First thing, what should be included? Your revenue, your income, what you're bringing in. So your gross sales should be listed. Your gross sales are the total of the, in case you're confused, they are the total of your sales before commission is taken out. So if it's a $5,000 trip, oh my goodness, a $5,000 trip, $5,000 is that gross sales revenue of that. Then your commission revenue is the broken out piece of commission that is paid to you. So you know what you're bringing in. And both of those should be listed, but listed separately on your accounting. So you have an idea of exactly what your gross sales are in a year and exactly what your total commission sales are a year, because both are important, right? And I can tell you from working on the supplier point of view, when I would have conversations with many agency owners like yourself, I'd say, what are your gross sales in a year? You have to have a grasp of that, not just the commission you're bringing in. Commission's important because that's actually your money. That's what you're spending. But you need to have an idea of what your gross sales are and know how you might grow those growth sales. Also, your service fees. It's very important to me, and again, take this for what you want. I would separate service fees that you additionally charge from your commission revenue. If you have the idea of what they are separately for each booking that you're bringing in, because that is not actually commission you made on that trip. That is commission you chose to add in, okay? And why I say that is because when you're looking for profit drivers and seeing who's your most commissionable or the most who's going to bring your business up, you might have added a $500 service fee into a booking that actually isn't that commissionable, but it would appear it if it's in there. So you want to make sure you have that separation there when you're building this in your Excel sheet, making sure your service fees are all separate. So you can see where you're adding into, where it was easier for you to add into, but that's also a big part of it. So things like that, to make sure that's separate. Incentives and rebates. So this is important for a similar reason. So often we will get, and I'm just giving an example in a good way. I know Vacation Express, every month they have so many hotels, right, that they're 21% commission. That's fabulous. Take all the advantage of that. But I would keep a note of that when you're recording this, because if you're looking for profit drivers, and again, in seasonality and seeing exactly when certain things were more successful for you than others, especially if you're breaking it all the way down to supplier, if it was an incentive that got you that extra 4% commission, 5%, 6% commission, you should know that because you cannot directly report it again for the following year because you didn't get that commission true to what it would have been. I hope that makes sense. So I would always make sure anything like that where you're getting extra cash that wouldn't usually be included, make sure that's noted out, like what the difference would be. And any other income, as far as like if you get insurance and things like that, because insurance tends to come in if you add it on to your trip, it's usually at a higher commission rate. So it's going to seem like you had such a great profit margin on that, like a great percentage. But the reality is it's just the insurance. So just breaking that off, you'll have a good idea of what you sell in insurance in a year. And really, I will say this till I'm blue in the face, you should be selling insurance to everyone. But to each their own. I know it's a competitive market, so it's hard for you to be able to do that. But just know that I would break that off. Next thing, cost of goods sold. So that whole first section was revenue. Okay. Cost of goods sold or COGS. It's listed a lot on financial reports. So these are your supplier payments. So anything that you would have to pay out to a supplier, anything, if this is a little bit of a different situation if you're working with a host, but if you are an independent agency owner and you have to pay out on your own, this is all should be marked in there. Anything you're paying out from your own funds to a supplier, any direct labor costs. So if you hire anyone, even if it's part-time, what those costs are, your merchant fees. So this is for very specific situations. If you are part of a host, you might run your merchant fees through, like here at WorldVia, we use Stripe. There's an account that runs it through. It's separate, so it doesn't really need to be accounted for in that way. But if you run your own merchant fee or you run your own service fees in-house, you want to be making sure you're accounting for merchant fees. So you know exactly what you spent out on merchant fees in a year. It's really important when you're thinking of that. And also when you're thinking of what your service fee is going to be, keep that in mind because 3% could be quite pricey after a while. And any refunds and cancellations. So if you have any refunds and cancellations throughout the year, you should keep note of it because it was sales that you brought in, it was sales that you put out, but it wasn't going to be part of your gross sales really at the end, right? So you want to make sure it's accounted for so you knew that that happened, but you want to, then you'll, again, you would be taking it out. And then your gross profit, then here it is the revenue minus your COGS, right? So adding it all up, minusing the COGS, that's going to get your gross profit. So this is all this just right here is going to give you an idea of what's coming in and a little bit of what's coming out in a sense, because of, again, refunds, things like that, merchant fees. This is all of what's coming into your business, okay? Now this next section is what's going out. So this should be a page of your, it could all be one page, but this should be a page of your Excel sheet and this should be another. So all your operating expenses. Good. So Amanda says she has a good spreadsheet to help her keep it on track on Etsy. That's fabulous. Like whatever makes sense. And some people, their brain works like this, where they can create really excellent tools to build these kind of things. Get in their space, use their product, whatever makes the most sense to you, whether it's creating your own Excel sheet, whether it's using QuickBooks. There's so many great tools, but I highly recommend doing it. So operating expenses, making sure if you have any salaries or wages, rent and utilities if you're in a space, advertising and marketing. I spelled advertising wrong. Sorry about that, guys. Advertising and marketing. So if you're putting into Facebook ads, like Meta ads, if you're doing any advertising locally, if you're paying for any Googles or, I don't know what your business scope looks like, but anything you're paying out, making sure that's marked there. Software oh my goodness, software and technology that you're using. So if there's anything, whether this is a CRM system, whether you use a itinerary builder that you pay for, whether it be an AI service that you use, whether it's, if it's to create your marketing tools, whatever it may be, that's a great thing that you can add into there for your operating expense. Your insurances, so your E&O and business insurances. Oh, great answer, Amanda. Your domain or email, what you're paying for there. That's a huge one if you have to pay for those. Travel and entertainment. This is listed here because we are in travel. We love to travel. A lot of times this is an operating expense. If you're going to a conference, if you're going to something, this can be included in here. Oh my goodness, I spelled a bunch of things wrong on here today, guys. I was typing way too fast. Office supplies and equipment. Literally your notebooks, your whatever you need to operate your day, your envelopes. If you send out paper documents to people, the postage for that, and any professional fees. So if you do hire a bookkeeping service, if you do hire an accounting service, those are great things to pop in here. And then training and development. Okay. So again, anything you're doing to develop yourself, anything that has at a cost, put this in here as an expense coming out. Then, of course, once you have an idea of what your taxes are after you file them for the first year, have your taxes in there. Also a good estimate, just a good rule of thumb is even just to start is taking 10% out of everything you bring in and putting it aside to have it for your taxes. And we'll talk about where you can put that a little bit later. But that's really important just so you're not completely blindsided when it happens in the future. So you have it to pay. And then if you have too much, great. That's kind of like you got your own tax return there. And then of course, so your net profit. So net profit or net income, which is the final profit after all your expenses and taxes have been deducted. So again, so it's what your gross income was minus all the expenses. That's your net profit or net income. Okay. That was a lot of words and a lot of me talking, but it was really important information there. So again, I'm going to briefly talk about commission statements too. Many of you may not deal with it, especially if you're part of a host, you might have a different system, but just the important things to take from it, what's important, what's not, and should you keep them. If you have access to your commission statements, I would keep yours. If you work for a company or a host that keeps them on file for you, fabulous. I would keep them for at least that year of a tax year until you filed your taxes, just so you have everything on hand. You may never reference it again and then you could delete it. But even if you just keep a separate folder in your email box where you're just forwarding those into there, so they're always there in case you need them, I highly recommend it. This is a fake commission statement. And in here, I'm just saying important things. You might have a random traveler name. Not all of them do. So make sure you have an idea of that, of your booking confirmation numbers for different vendors, because it usually just comes over from the vendor with a booking time period and your booking account number. Sometimes there's a name, sometimes there isn't. It might, like this has itineraries, it might not. So the important things to take from this are, of course, this is on air only on these ones, but like it would be your air and your commission you made on this. This would be obviously much higher if it was a package booking, but those are the important things to know. So when you're keeping this into your records and as you're putting into, like I said, your bookkeeping, if you're trying to keep track of all this, these are the things you can pull out of here, right? What it was the cost, what was the commission you brought in, when that went in, and you could even put the traveler name if that's important to you, but just keeping all this information in there, booking number is really helpful as well. So I didn't want to get into that too far, but if you just haven't, if you don't deal with them, or if you weren't sure what to keep from that, those are the things. So now, setting and achieving financial goals. Now, I'm a big proponent to SMART goals. I've talked about SMART goals. I think this is now the third time in this series. SMART goals are incredibly important to building, goals that make sense for you and your business. So first, what is a SMART goal? It is actually the letters. So it is a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goal. So specific. Make goals clear and specific. Make sure it's easy for you to understand, easy for you to dive into, make sense. Measurable. Make sure you have a measurable asset to it. If you can't measure it, you lose track of it, you don't care about it, you move on. It's when people don't take the time to make a goal SMART, they don't get as committed to it and they move on. So make sure it is measurable. You can see when you have growth. You can see when you've moved forward. Attainable. Make sure the goal makes sense. If you are currently brand new and you want to be a $5 million agency, that might not be attainable this year. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean you're not going to attain it one day. That doesn't mean you can't attain it in a few years, or maybe you can, but make sure that it is attainable for you and your business. Make sure it's relevant. Of course, make sure you're not like, I want to hike Mount Everest when your goal is to build your business. I know that's outlandish, but that's, make sure it makes sense. And then time-based. You have to have a time period on it so you can track yourself. If it's open-ended, it'll be open-ended forever, and you're never going to get really what you want from it or learn from it the way you want to. So putting a timer on it, it's in your brain. It's something you can set up. And then also when it's time-based, it's easier for you to break it out into steps. You can say, okay, in so many weeks, I want to have this accomplished. So many weeks, I want to have that accomplished. Okay. So I talk about them a lot, but I actually broke out some SMART goals this time. Okay. So for what? I want to be $1 million agency. And if you're already over $1 million, good for you. If you're not anywhere near there yet, that's also fine. I just thought this was a nice little example of what you do for a dollar amount, right? This is your big, hairy, audacious goal. This is the goal you've been thinking about. I want to be $1 million agency. Now, there's a couple questions here. Is it $1 million gross sales industry? Is it $1 million commission agency? There's a couple different things there, but let's just assume for gross sales, right? So first, what is your specific of this one for SMART? Increase annual gross revenue to $1 million. Okay, easy enough. That's specific. I know exactly what I want. There's a number on it. Measurable. Track revenue growth monthly and quarterly. Very easily measurable goal. You can see it coming in. You can see what goes out. You can have a rough idea of the month, the quarter, all understandable. Achievable. So based on current revenue and market conditions, plan incremental growth by expanding service offerings, improving marketing, and increasing customer retention. So that's how you're going to achieve that goal. You're going to offer new services. You're going to put some money into your marketing. You're going to increase you're going to, up that to 80%. I want to keep 80% of the customers I bring in, right? Whatever it may be. All of that is going to bring your revenue higher and bring more funds into you. Is it relevant? This directly aligns with the goal of becoming $1 million agency, right? Do what you pick so far. It all makes sense for your agency. Time bound. I can achieve this goal within 3 years. You notice how I didn't go with 1 year for this one. I did because it might not make sense for this agency to hit that. I don't know where this agency's at, but this agency in 3 years, I think I can do it. Okay. So that's how you do that with a SMART goal. Let's look at one more. I want to expand my client base. Ooh, I'm getting some lightning. I apologize if I lose any reception here. I'm getting some storms. So the specific of this, grow the client base by 25%. The measurable is acquire 50 new clients per year, increasing the total client base to 250 by the end of the first year. So assuming you already have 200 clients. Again, these are all made up things, but achievable. Implement targeted marketing campaigns, referral programs, and partnership with businesses or influencers in the travel industry. I'm in Pennsylvania, so that's where I'm getting the storms at. Relevant. A larger client base will drive revenue growth. So it's absolutely relevant. And time bound. Achieve this by the end of 12 months. Okay. So this is how you break down SMART goals. Your goal could be different depending on what you're trying to do with your business and what you're doing for you. These are two examples of growth-based goals that make sense. That may not be, again, you can change the timing on them, but for growth for anyone, both of these make sense. Expanding your client base or hitting a dollar amount, whatever that dollar may be. It might be 1 million, it might be 5 million, it might be 500,000, whatever makes the most sense. But you can do all of that by setting these goals and then breaking them down further. Okay. So to get to these goals and seeing exactly how you get to these points, I also think it's really important that you develop a forecast budget. So this is a fancy breakdown of this, but it's creating an 18-month rolling budget, involves planning and forecasting income and expenses over a year and a half, and with regular updates to reflect actual performance and any changes in business environment. What does that mean? So what I mean is you're going to start with a goal. You're going to start with the information you already have. Now, if you're brand new, you're going to be making up a lot of these numbers. But if you've been in the business a year, 5 years, 10 years, you have a good idea of what the last year looked like for you. Okay. So what I would always say is that you base it off the current 6 months, like the last 6 months, to build out the next year. And then you could adjust accordingly as they start to roll in. Okay. You could do a year if you want and just do the next 6 months as guessing. That's up to you. But so doing current 6 months and kind of adjusting from there is helpful. And then as you adjust, you can adjust where your targets are and things like that. So I put a sample one in here to have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I broke this into the different categories we talked about before. So first is revenue. Now it only includes months 1 through 3 and then 18, but just for example. So sales revenue, say your sales revenue is currently 5 or 50,000 a month. Again, these are made up numbers just so it's easier to digest. But you do currently 50,000 in sales revenue. So you in month 2, you did 52,000 in sales revenue. And in month 3, you did 55 in sales revenue. So what this one did is it grew in increments by, I believe, it's 2 to 3,000 each increment. Hold on, let me do the math here. 3. I can't math it right now, but it was a small increments of growth that would eventually, to the point where they get to month 18, they're at 80,000. Okay. So, and this is something that if the goal, ultimately the goal is 80,000. That's how this was figured out. So I'm at 50,000. I want to be at 80,000. What are the small amounts of growth I need to hit in order to get that? And where am I currently at now? So say month 4 pops in and it was supposed to be 58,000, but you only hit 56. So you have to add those little amounts to the following months to hit your 80,000. Okay, so that's what I mean by adjusting as you go through. Now you would do this, like I said, in a 6-month period. So it would be a little more drawn out, but same idea with commission income. Estimated you would make about 10,000 in commission. You want to make 11,000 month 2, 12,000 month 3, 13,000 month 4, all this way to get to 18,000, right? But you notice it's not as big of a jump from 12,000 to 18,000 as it was earlier. That's because they've probably assumed for time periods in your calendar where you didn't have as great a sales last year, slow time periods, whatever it may be, whatever worked into your schedule that you have to go, oh, I'm probably not going to increase by 1,000. I'm probably going to go down to 8,000. And then, you have to make those assumptions as you go through. Service fees, and same with other income. You do all this to get your total revenue and what that would look like at the end of the 18 months. And again, this could all look very different depending on different things that can come up, outside forces that could happen, but it's really important to have this idea. And then as you start to play this game, because it really is a bit of a game, especially when you're first starting out, you're going to go, oh, I actually do better in these months. I didn't realize. So I'm going to build this bank up here to get to there, or whatever it may be, or I'm going to bring out, because I know I'm terrible June, July, August. So I'm going to lower my sales there, but no, I can just crush it in the fall, whatever makes the most sense. But you'll play around with this till it makes sense. And then you can find your incremental growth. Incremental growth for me is always like at year over year to be about 20%. Well, 10% is good growth, right? And 20% is a good stretch goal. So if you're currently a $50,000 a month revenue, so that for a year from now, you would want to be at 55 is an easy 10% growth, right? It's, you'll see it's bigger on this chart, but then or your stretch would be 60. So if you just want to do small incremental growth, that's a great way to do it, or you can really blow it out of the water and do it a little bit bigger. Now on here, I also got into operating expenses and what that looks like to grow it out in an 18th month rolling forecast. This is a little bit easier, right? Because you have an idea of what your expenses are. So you'll notice this one, salaries went up because maybe you hired someone else part-time or whatever it may be. But marketing's a little bit more because you're investing more in marketing to grow your business. But your rent and utilities are the same. Your insurance is the same. Your office supplies are the same. So you have an idea of what that will be coming out. But training and development might be different depending on what you're doing that month or what's going on. So, did I miss one? Oh, I did skip through. Oh, I put the same picture in there. Whatever, it's fine. You have the idea with what that kind of looks like. But so what's next, right? So does this all give you a panic attack? Does this make you nervous? Does this make you uncomfortable? Is it time to hire a professional service? What should you be doing for yourself, right? Because numbers, I know, are scary for people. I also know numbers don't make sense to everybody. I know that sounds crazy because we all took math. We all know 1 + 1 = 2. But at the same time, I look at numbers and they just click for me. I can look at a crazy report and I go, oh, okay, I got it. And like, we all know one person that can speed through an Excel sheet. That is not me, but I do know numbers. So like, there's different things that our brains comprehend better than others. So looking at this, you might be like, oh, I don't even want to sit with that. I get that. So I just want to talk about what options you might have or what things could be possible for you. And again, play around with it. It truly is a game of kind of figuring it out at first, but then when you get into it, you might realize you understand it more than you thought you did, and it could be really helpful. So what services should you already have? These aren't even services. It's incredibly important that you have a business checking account for your travel agency. This should be common sense, but you'd be surprised. And a business savings account. Why? Right? Okay, so why the two separate? First, the checking account is because this is where cash should be coming in and out. This is where you should be paying your expenses from. This is where you're receiving payments into, right? Your savings account is where you should be putting your cushion of money. This is where your emergency fund should be. This is where you should be hiding money for taxes so that when bills are coming out to pay, it's not coming out of that money that you save. This should be common sense, but at the same time, in case you didn't know, that is the way you should do this. And that's why it's important because that is your money that is there for you no matter what. So whether you are just taking small increments out of every commission check you bring in and you're popping that into that savings account, that should be separate. And that's what I would recommend to do. To start building that cushion for yourself is take about 10 to 20% of every commission. And I know that's tough in the beginning, especially when you're first starting out and you're like, oh, I just want that couple $100. I get it. But taking that couple bucks out of every commission check that comes through is going to help you worlds in the future. So building that little space for yourself, that 10%. Now, what services might come next, right? So one, a bookkeeping service. It's going to track and record financial transactions. They're going to include sales, expenses, payroll. They're going to do all the stuff we kind of talked about for you, but it also might be, something that you buy as far as a service, or it might be something you hire out. What about retirement account or funds? I'm not sure. Oh, you're saying like taking money out for that. Oh, Anthony, I didn't even get into that, but yes. So that's something I'm going to derail for a hot second and kind of talk about what Anthony said, is because we are in an industry where retirement is not, I'm not going to get into the whole entity of this in a minute because it's a little separate what we're talking about, but we don't necessarily have retirement funds, right? Nobody's just taking money of our paychecks for retirements. I highly recommend you speak to a financial advisor or go to a bank or somewhere that can offer you, IRAs, things like that. Look into a retirement policy or look into retirement accounts or funds that can be taken through and removed into a retirement account because we don't have that luxury with the way we do things. Do you have a bank you would recommend for a business account? I don't necessarily. What I would tell you to look for, Ingrid, is ones that have better perks for business owners. That could be a lot of things. That could be, it could be, oh my goodness, I can't think of it, like overdraw fees. If something gets pulled out, like say commission recalls and that you're not prepared for, they're like of overdraw awareness. It might be cash back. It might be a million different things for you. I know when I had the travel agency, we went on a cash back system because we liked having that extra funds coming in, and anything we came back there, we put back into the business. That's entirely up to you. And even so, you might have ones that, will have better, like it could be a bank that has, their own, which most banks do at this, I should say, this is, see again, I'm not a banker and I'm talking about banking, but at the same, they will have their own IRAs and things that you can kind of switch funds over to. So it's all in one place. So I would highly recommend you speak to somebody in like a financial advisor or somebody in a local bank that you're comfortable speaking with and ask these questions, because I don't want to act like I know banking in that manner. I know financial statements for my business, but I highly recommend you look into one, retirement accounts, because it's not an option for us. There's no way to bring that out, especially when you own your own business. You have to do it yourself. And again, look into bank accounts that have kickbacks is my recommendation. You don't have to if it's more comfortable for you. I will also say a lot of people recommend credit unions for travel agency owners, because there tends to be less fees and things involved, because when you get into regular bank accounts, there tends to be a certain amount of transaction fees after you have so many transactions in a month. There's also, I forget some of the other fees that can kind of come up into play with a business account. So be mindful, do your research, take a minute and look at the different ones that are local to you, look at the bigger banks and see, because there are other fees that are come into place when you have a business account that aren't with a regular traditional account. Also, I should have included all this in here. There's extra things you need when you're getting a business account. So you would have to, at that point, have your EIN, your LLC in many areas, things like that. So if you don't have a business account yet and are looking to get into one, make sure you have the entities to build your business in your state, and you'll need those. But look, I would reach out to your local bank or the banks you're speaking with and seeing exactly what they need for you to get your bank account and your business account, and they'll be able to get into all those details for you. Okay, so I kind of got to off track there, but bookkeeping, that's, a huge help and a service. Also, accounting services, I highly recommend you hire someone to do your taxes for you at the very least, but if you want full accounting services, it can be done. They vary. It's usually on a per hour basis, and you can pay them, or per service. There's all different kinds, but they can do, financial statement prep for you. They can do your tax filing and compliance for you. It's really important. Or again, accounting software, whether it's QuickBooks or FreshBooks, whatever makes the most sense. You can do a lot of those, and they'll do, what's nice about those is they do your reporting for you. So all the things I'm talking about, like, oh, record this, you could just be popping different statements into there, and it keeps all that information for you. So it's a little bit less maintenance than having to manually put it in an Excel sheet for yourself. Credit card processing. So this is a dicey conversation, because not everyone's business is different. You might be part of a host agency, you might have your own independent agency, so please take this with a grain of salt. Many host agencies I know, like our own, we offer a service where you can charge your service fees through us. So we do all the merchant fees, things like that. Some like to do it on their own and have it in-house. That is completely up to you. That is an option that you can add into your business later, and it's a way to accept those credit and debit card payments. Amanda, I don't have an LLC and don't wish to because of the need of more additional insurance. Maybe when I make whatever, totally understand. So she brought up a point that you need a little bit more insurance with LLC, and that's 100% fine. I also am very aware that LLCs in different states cost different amounts of money, right? Different levels of commitment. So know that you have to do what makes the most sense for your business at this time, and then that's when you make those decisions to move into other spaces. So right now you might just be yourself, and that's okay. Or like as a sole proprietor in a sense, you're operating like that, that's fine. But then you're going to get to a different financial level where you're going to go, okay, maybe this should be an LLC now. One, to cover your bases. Again, you don't have to be, but just for financial purposes in the future, God forbid anything ever happened and there was a lawsuit or anything like that, to make sure that, it's not just you that's accountable for that. It's the business, and it's a little bit different. Again, I don't want to act like I am a legal entity and speak to all this, but I can just say what I would recommend. It totally makes sense at the beginning to get your footing in and make your finances make sense before you can make those decisions to, one, purchase the LLC, as well as purchase the insurances along with it to create your travel business. It's definitely not required, but it's I would just say it's recommended as you make those steps forward. Invoicing tools. Okay, so this is another step what might come into helpful into the future, is because I am a big fan of automating anything that makes your job easier, and there are tools that will do this for you. They're going to send your invoices, they're going to make them for you, they're going to track them, they're going to send out reminders to make sure that they pay them if they haven't paid them yet. And it just is emails you do not have to send in your day, and things you don't have to keep track of. You just put in their travel dates and when that's due, and it sends it for you. It's a built into a lot of CRM systems, but not all. But just keep that in mind. Oh, Ingrid, you raised your hand. Do you have a question? Please pop it in if you do. So just think about that. So, I'm a big fan of automating whenever possible. Oh, I see there's a question there. Let's see. Do you have a forecast for the month earned or the month received? Oh, great question. So this is a difficult thing to answer, right? Because that's why, and I should have talked about this. I do an 18-month because more often than not in the travel industry, you're booking it in, say, April. Say, for example, they're not traveling till November. You might not be getting that commission till January. So there's such a scope on this. Now, this is why an 18-month rolling for a travel advisor and a travel agency owner is going to vary so much, because I do think you should put it on what you earned to have an idea, but should adjust on what was received, if that makes sense. Sorry, I know you asked that question a little bit ago, but I just wanted to answer that. Thoughts on Turn, Travelvoy, or Travefy? So I have no real thoughts per se on them. That is more so I've used some of them. I've seen some really great demos on Turn recently. What I would say is you have to evaluate what makes the most sense for your business. If your host agency or your consortium has a system that makes sense for you, I highly recommend you make sure you know all the tools that it can be used in it. I know very often, even with our own system, people don't realize what can be used in ours, but if it doesn't have all the tools you need, of course, you could always go out to a different system, and they all offer different things. So making sure, one, that it has what you need in it, what's important to you for your system, for your itinerary builders and your CRM systems, making sure all those quintessential pieces that you need to build your business are in there. That's what's important. I wouldn't say I have a feeling one way or the other on them. They're all similar in sense of, like I said, I've seen some cool things with Turn more recently. I think they're the new shiny object on the block, but I wouldn't say I have a feeling on one or the other per se. But again, and I would also, if you are within my host, know that we have some great updates coming to our systems too. So just keep that in mind. And then reoccurring billing. This is another thing, just the last note. You can automate your billing for subscription services and installment payments, just so you're not having to think about that and having to make those payments out. So it's something that you can just put in as far as services go for yourself and for your agency. Okay. Last, I just don't want you to get overwhelmed. I know I talked a lot about this. Listen, this is not the most exciting of topics, but it's an important topic. So I wanted to make sure it was talked about. I wanted to make sure you understood setting goals for yourself and your business, and so that it makes sense. I also am always very happy to take these questions offline if you ever had a question, but make sure you just take it one step at a time. If for you right now is just setting that goal, that's fine. If for you right now is just taking a minute and looking at last month's sales and popping it into an Excel sheet, that's fine. Don't feel like you need to do all this at once. Don't feel like if you haven't done it yet, you're behind. You're not. What's important is now that you're taking the minute to start. So just keep that in mind. And remember, start smart. Let's start smart with smart goals, pick manageable goals and practices that get you on the right track. So don't do anything that's going to overwhelm you from the start. Like I was just saying, don't think that you're going to get all this in and out in 5 to 10 minutes and you've just, I've learned it. I know all the things, like that's not going to get you anywhere. And it's also going to frustrate you more than anything. I also, again, we talked about a lot on here today, things I am not a lawyer. Oh, funny enough, I did go to school to be a paralegal many lifetimes ago, but I'm not a lawyer. I am not an accountant. I am not a financial advisor. So any specific questions you have about your business, I highly recommend you reach out to the professionals for. And I know it's always tough for people when I say that, they're like, oh, but it's a cost. don't forget you're a travel professional and we have people picking us because we are the experts in what we do. They are the experts in their field and can help you with your business. So make sure you're thinking about that when you're making your choices. Oh, I love it. You're going to become a paralegal. I was all the way through the steps of becoming a paralegal, and then I realized this is not as exciting as I thought it was, and it is a lot of research. And so I shifted just to business and finished with business. But anywho, fun fact about me. I have a lot of fun facts. I have many lives behind this travel life that I love. I've just settled into travel and love it the most. But yeah, so make sure you're going to the experts. So we want people to come to us because we're experts. Make sure you're using your experts. So as far as, just getting started with accounting, like I said, you could do it with an Excel sheet, but if you want really just something more point and click and help you through it, QuickBooks is an easy way to do that. And get yourself started. So just thinking about those things and building your business is incredibly important. So I'm just going to pop up this last screen so you have an idea of my email address. Because again, I know I talked about a lot of things that might be confusing. Might not even be confusing, but you're just like, oh, I've never even taken a minute to look at this. If you had questions and wanted to talk about it, please reach out. That's my email address. Happy to help in any way I can. Ooh, there was a scary lightning. I don't know if you saw that. Happy to talk through it. Also, if you just have questions and you want to pop them into the Facebook group, happy to answer things there as well. This is a topic that is dicey because no one likes to talk about professional services outside of the service we're in, right? But it is important for your business. You're going to run into a situation where you haven't sitting and taken that time to break out exactly how much funds you're bringing in and know, because what if you are, you might be killing it and booking constantly, but you're spending so much in marketing and advertising things that you're not bringing a dollar in reality. It feels like you are, but you're traveling, you're doing this, and you're not making any overhead. That's a problem, especially if you want to grow your business, especially if you're thinking about adding in employees at some point. Like whatever you think it might be, like just there's so many things that if you're not taking the time to look at it, you will not know. Oh, thank you so much for coming. You have a wonderful weekend as well. And just because someone's popping off right now, I just want to say again, we won't be here next week, week after. I'll keep you posted in the group, and you'll see invitations come out regardless for future classes as well. But yeah, so it's just taking that time to evaluate your business. So from beginning to end, we're talking about building your goals and setting your habits for yourself to make sure you're growing your business. If you're not taking the minute to look at what you're bringing in to even know if you can expand the way you thought, that's an issue. So what advice would you give an agent is unsure if they are with the right host? Oh, interesting. So I am a very big, oh, Matthew, I'll get to your question in a second. I am a very big fan of a pros and cons list, and it is old school, and it is, so even if you have to do that in an Excel sheet, but what is important to know is remember what you love about your current host, and then see what doesn't make sense at your current host, right? And then say, I would, and this, you've heard me say this before, I know, Amanda, because you've been on here before. What's working, what's not working, what could be better? I do that with almost everything that I evaluate in my life. So what's working with your current host? What's not working? And would it be better if you moved? That's important because we all know sometimes the grass is not always greener, but sometimes it is. So have you taken that minute to one, evaluate what your other options are and see what other services or perks, because everyone kind of has, every host has different, what their forward facing thing is, like what they're really promoting out, what their goal is, right? And it's pretty clear in their advertising, but also once you start speaking with them, kind of what they're going for. But you can, if you take a minute and really look, or any host is always happy to answer questions. And they usually have a team that will help answer any questions you might have when you're thinking about transitioning. But I would really take that minute to make that list for yourself and see if it makes sense and see what another possibilities. So if you're like, what could be better? And you see another host that has those in their core values listed on their site and what they're putting out there, it might not hurt to have a conversation. Okay. Matthew, do employees need to be managed slash monitored much? Whew, this is a heavy question, right? So, you, you can, but So we're in a dicey world with this right now because everyone's virtual, right? So you have to tread lightly here. And I say that because I'm a virtual worker, right? And I know what I'm doing, but I also know I do work in the office about once a month, and I think I get less done when I'm in the office than I do when I'm at home. So I do recommend, it depends on the stage that employee's in. I think I also recommend if they are so if they're new to the industry, it's not even necessarily a monitor or a manage. It's you want to be there for guidance for them because I don't know if you remember what your first weeks were, and I know what my first weeks were, and they were scary and uncomfortable. And I worked in a storefront, so imagine doing that all on your own. So that's the thing. Also, it's important when we're talking about employees that they are in fact employees because ICs are a very different conversation. So just know that we're talking about employees here. What I would recommend to you, Matthew, is scheduling time with them each week, whether I don't know if you're in a storefront or if you work virtually, but scheduling time with them just one-on-one time to talk through. I know I do this with my team because we are virtual, where I go individually with each person. Hey, what are we working on? What's going on? What could be better? What didn't work? What can we work on? Right. So just showing that attentive time to them. So does it puts you in a space where they don't necessarily have to be monitored per se, but managed in the sense of you're like, hey, this is where we're on. And then we review numbers each week. It's really important to me with my team because we are sales based, I'll be honest, that we review one, what their calls were like, what worked and what didn't work on phone calls, and just where if there's sales, the numbers are where they should be. They have a standard goal that they should be hitting each week, and we talk about whether they're above or below it. And it's never a like a manage like a oh you didn't hit it. It's more of okay, what can we do to get you there? Because it's about development, less about management, if that makes sense. I hope I made that clear. Amanda, yes, I've looked at a few and you never really know until you do get into them. I understand that, Amanda. And so, and in full disclosure, when I was on the supplier side, I worked with many host agencies, so I'm familiar with a lot of them. It's hard to know. It really is. And that's going to be something that you have to kind of evaluate for yourself. And it may be some deeper conversations, and it may be having conversations with agents with or advisors that work for that host agency to see what their experience is and see if it matches the experience that you want to be having. Some people work really well in certain hosts where they're fully independent and don't have any assistance. Some people work really well in hosts that are full of education and they're in your faces and how can we help you? What can we do this? Some people hate that. That's not for everyone. That's not the kind of host that's required for certain people. So you have to make sure that the business initiative from the host makes sense and aligns with the business that you're trying to create for yourself. Good. I hope that was helpful. I mean, if you had any other questions, I'd love to talk with you separately about employees and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely an interesting subject. And if I knew more about exactly your dynamic, I could probably answer a little bit more specifically. But yeah, you just got to be, it's really about making sure they're developing themselves in the process because listen, this industry can be hard. We can all, it's very easy for us, especially if we've been in it for a long time, to be like, oh, how don't they know anything? How'd they ask that question? That drives me crazy because I remember being new. I remember sitting next to a 30-year agent and she's just typing away in Saber Blue screen and she looks like she's speaking another language. I'm like, what are you saying? And then before you knew, I knew it because she helped me and she was kind. So, don't forget that there's so much going on and it's a lot to take in and there's so much to learn at once. But it's development is the key for sure. So, Amanda, okay, thank you. I need one in my face and not one who has just put your bookings in the backups. Oh no. Well, listen, I don't know who you're with and I don't want to speak to you, but evaluate, your options, see what our options are available to you and what can be helpful because there's certain agencies and I'll just take this moment to say, our agent, we love, we're constantly training and reaching out and trying to help and this isn't a sales plug. I'm just saying, so making sure that you're at one that makes sense for you is really, really important. We're very involved with our advisors and you want to make sure that if that's what you're looking for, you're with one that makes sense that does that for you. All right. I am going to stay on. I thank you all so much. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this was a little bit more of like a data-driven one, wasn't as exciting and maybe as thought-provoking as some of the other ones, but really should make you think about your business and what you're currently evaluating within your own and when you're setting your goals. I'm already over on time, so I'm just going to stay on for a little bit in case anybody else has any questions. But if you don't, feel free to enjoy your weekend. I'll see you very soon. Join the Facebook group if you want to get in there and ask any questions or just meet other like-minded individuals. Oh, good, helpful, lots of notes. Good. And I'm very happy for that. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for joining. Listen, I'm here if you need anything and if you have any questions, if you have any specific, things you think of, or you just like, if you're like, oh, you looked at this and you're like, I don't even know how this would work for me, and you just need some guidance, please let me know. Any thoughts on an exit strategy? Are you talking about like exiting the industry, Anthony? Is that what you're talking about? Thinking this is the start of my second week overwhelmed. Oh, I get it. I'm sure you're overwhelmed if it's your second week, but listen, you're gonna do great. You just gotta take a breather, take a step back, and make sure you're always forward is a pace. So just remember as you're learning all this, as long as you're taking it one bite at a time, you're gonna get there. Okay. Thank you, Ingrid. You have a wonderful weekend. Yes, selling and or book of business. Anthony, so listen, this is tough, right? So, and it's actually interesting. I go to the Path Symposium or Path Symposium, which if you're not familiar with that is, it's a group of host agencies that are built out of the ASTA organization. And there's certain elements that you have to be a part of it, and it's really informational. And something that comes a lot is, and it comes up a lot is the exit strategy for many agency owners. And this is really, it's a difficult conversation because one, you've worked so hard to build that business for yourself. And what do you do with it? That's what you're saying. So I know I don't necessarily have any thoughts per se. I won't tell you what I know of other um, agency owners. I know a tendency is they're bringing on someone towards the end as they're trying to transition out to then take over the business that they currently have and switching that business over. It's a little bit more of a manual process because some bookings that are already in process, depending on how quickly you're planning on selling. So I don't know when you're planning on taking the step back, but I do know some agency owners that like are sit in that process for quite a bit of time, making sure that transition makes sense, making sure it's comfortable for all their clients. That's the tough part about it, right? Because you build relationships with your clients and making sure they're comfortable with it and they understand. Um, Now I don't know if you work from home or if you're a storefront, that's all very different as well. But it really depends on what makes sense for your business. This is something that if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to talk through it a little bit more because this is a little bit more personal to the specifics of your agency, and I'd be happy to try and help you with that in any way I can. Um, Amanda, when doing research on hosts, where do you go to look other than Host Agency Review? That's a great question. So Host Agency Review is a great source. I know there is also a site, I believe, called Find a Host, or if you search findahost.com, I believe that'll come up. Also, it might just take some time of digging through by searching host agent, like travel host agency, and getting your first couple clicks. But I'll be honest with you, even being from one, know that a lot of those are sponsored at the beginning, so you have to do a little bit of digging. I will say Host Agency Review is a good source because it's a non-biased source. So they can kind of give you elements of each piece and then you can kind of dig onto their websites. And they also evaluate a lot of information from host advisors. So it could be helpful as far as reviews go. All right, everybody, I will hang out for about 3 or 4 minutes or so if anyone else has any questions. If not, have a wonderful weekend. For those of you that told me to have a good vacation, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so excited. I'll have lots to say. Hopefully, I have a tan when I come back. I don't know because it'll be event. I will be in California for a while though, so fingers crossed. But I thank you all so much for showing up. You guys were such an interactive group tonight, which I really appreciate. It makes it so much easier and so much more fun. And then there's more to come. We have a lot to come up on different elements of growth and how you can improve your business after the break. So if nothing else, feel free to jump off. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Amanda. And yeah, guys, if you need to rewatch, it's all in the Facebook group. Please, it's all there for you. So, please, if you have any questions, reach out to me via email. And if not, I'll hang out for a minute or two. And if not, you have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Matthew. Oh, I talked so long, I didn't have a drink any water today. It goes, I was parched. Happy long weekend to you too. Oh my goodness. And we'll see you next time. Enjoy your long weekend, everybody.